Welcome to another lecture. So in this lecture, what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about the folder structure of our Laravel framework that we have. Um, Here in the beginning, it might be overwhelming or confusing, but in time you will get really be a professional in this part because we will use not some of these. We will go through each and every probably folder, and we will deal with that, and this will be like become natural to you. Now it's a little bit strange because if you haven't done Laravel, yeah, it can be overwhelming. There are too many things. So to begin with, we have this composer.json file, right? So here in this composer.json file, remember that we have composer as our dependency manager, but that requires this file. So here we're not gonna touch this one at the moment, but later you can also here you can require when you installing a packages, you can require them here if you want. So but at the moment I'm telling you that this is composer.json, and because we installed this one through the composer, which was dependency manager, and here is the file that requires this JSON file. Now that's pretty much it for now. We're gonna deal with that later. So let's go. Remember that this is MVC framework, and we will find where our models, controllers, and views are located, right? So this is the whole folder structure. Now the first thing is this is the app directory, and it contains the core of our application. So most of our classes are here, and in HTTP folder we have here, if I do this, if I close this one, so we have the controller, middleware, and the kernel. So this is where we can add new controller. So if we go here, we can see that we have a class control that extends the base controller. So basically in the base controller, there are all the methods that we can use. That's why it's extending that class, the controller. And we can create controller by copying and pasting, but that's not a good idea because we can create them with PHP artisan with the make command, right? And you will see later when we start working on a project, you will see how we're going to create it. Now, so the app directory contains also additional directories such as, let's close this one, like console, HTTP, and providers, right? Here it is. Down here we have the providers: app service provider, authentication service provider. We have a lot of things to go through, right? So HTTP protocol and CLI. So console and HTTP directories are there to provide an API into the core of our application. So HTTP and the console is there for that. So HTTP protocol and CLI are both mechanisms to interact with our application. So there is no application logic here issuing commands, right? So the console directory contains all of our artisan commands, right? And it will be the artisan commands provided by your application. So you will see, maybe now it's not clear, but when we start using artisan, you will understand how this works. So you can see that we have the controller section where we can create control, but we have here user.php, and this is a class, by the way, right? Class user, but actually this is the model. So we can create additional folder to store all the models, but I'm not gonna do this in this course. So if you want, I'm telling you now that you can start doing that, and you can put all of your models there. But I'm just gonna put the rest of the models down here. For example, for posts, we're gonna need another model. For comments, for I don't know, for everything here, for admins, we will have the models down here, and that's pretty much it. Now we can see that this class extends authenticable. So the thing is that at the moment we have in HTTP, we have controllers, we have auth folder, and here confirm password. They're all controllers, but they're not working at the moment, because if we see our application, we don't have login, we don't have register, and that we can do by installing them and requiring them. So when we do that, this will have the effect. Now it's at the moment it's not doing anything here, right? But after that we will do, when we do the scaffolding, first we need to do the scaffolding, and you will see in a minute. I don't want to confuse you, but at the moment we don't have any authentication here. Now the MVC framework, we have the controller, right? We have the models, we have the views. So the views are actually located down here in resources, in views. Actually this one, that if I go welcome.blade.php, and if I go here, this is our view. So if I, for example, cut this part, and if I refresh it now here, there's nothing gonna be there, right? So Control A, and I'm gonna cut this part. And also we don't have any styles. Here we have the inline style that's pulling all of the styles that we are having here. Just gonna refresh again. Oops, did I save it? No. So I need to save it. Now this is styled by using this style. So we don't have any bootstrap, we don't have it. And before, in other version, yes, we do have all of that, but not now. So another thing that I should tell you about is, if we go to the, for example, in the controllers, if I go in the control.php, we have this namespace. A namespace allow you to partition code into logical groups, so by defining them into their own namespace. So you will see a lot of namespaces right here, and that is because the code below will belong to that namespace. So namespace also provide a way to group interfaces and functions and constants, and it's gonna be super easy to use this one. And also here, if we want to require, if we want to use something, if we want to use some, doesn't matter what it was. So we need to use this keyword use, and after that we need the name of the file that we want to require, right? So that is how we can require files here. Now another thing that it's here, it's a bootstrap. So don't confuse bootstrap with this bootstrap. So bootstrap directory contains, let's see, cache and app.php, which bootstraps the framework. This directory also houses a cache directory. Here it is. And so it also houses a cache directory which contains framework generated files. Remember we talk about caching, and we talk about how that will optimize our routes and services. So here it is. So we're not gonna go here through many details. I'm just gonna tell you what's in the folders, and after that in the course we will go through them. Now config directory, so it's the name of the directory, implies contains all of our application configuration files, right? So here it is. We have app. So env, this is pulling from this env class here, right? This env, that's called stands for environment. So I'm going to talk about environment later and why we need to use that. Now, what else? So we have the database. The database directory contains all the database migrations, factories, and seeds, right? We're going to create seeds, we're going to create migrations here, and here is a blueprint. For example, it's going to create users table, and we're going to define what we'll have in the users table. So it's very very simple. Now looks like very complex, but we need to do. I need to go over these things, because after that it might be confusing a little bit. So that's the database. The public directory contains index.php file, right? And why we need this one? So this is the entry point for all our requests entering the application, right? This directory also can have here images folder. JavaScript can contain JavaScript and CSS. For example, in Laravel 5 point something, 5.5 or 4, here there was a folder automatically, CSS and JS folder for our JavaScript files, but now it's not there, so we need to do something that's called scaffolding in order to get this here. Now in resources we have the views, as I mentioned. We also have the SAS, or you can say, so the resources directory contains our views and raw uncompiled assets such as SAS or JavaScript, right? In a SAS, the moment we don't have anything here, we will deal with this later. And routes is a very interesting directory, but we're mostly going to use here this web.php, where we can register our routes. And by the way, this welcome here, return welcome. If we go here, if we go to the resources, we have the welcome.blade.php. So that's returning this view, right? And we don't specify the rest of the name, blade.php syntax, but just we just use our first here, right? And that's why this automatically loads this screen here. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, we have console.php, api.php. I'm not gonna talk about this anymore. Storage directory also here. We have the tests, where I mentioned that contains automated tests. We're gonna run a couple of tests here, and example tests, and creates tests, test case, unit testing. So we probably gonna do some testing. I'm not sure. For example, PHP unit test is provided out of the box, right? You may run this test unit using PHP unit, which is located in a vendor folder. And the vendor directory contains our composer dependencies, right? Now, I told you that this env stands for environment configuration. This environment configuration, so .env should not be when we submit someone, or when we trying to give our application to someone to look at to work, because maybe we are working in a team. When we try to commit our application, we should not put this .env file there, because each developer using our application could require a different environment configuration, because here contains our app key, the name, also contains the DB connection, the password, the username. So if you have a password, you're gonna put it here. Also, all of your mail drivers and stuff like that. So we can add more things here if we want. And so this could be security risk if somebody gains access to our source control repository, right? Since our sensitive credentials will be stored here. So if you're working in a team, you should wish, and so for example, they want to work with you, you need to include this env.example, which is same as this one, but is empty. So you don't have any credentials here. You see, API key is missing. Here is your API key, right? App key, sorry, not API key. So that's pretty much it for the structure. Now, the most important things is the controllers for this one, right? And we're gonna create controllers. We're gonna use the models, and we're gonna deal with routes, web. We're gonna register routes here, and after that, what we need to do is we're gonna create views. So these views, for example, we're gonna have views for pages, for I don't know, for everything, and we can classify those into folders, so we will know how to navigate easily and how to locate our views easily. So that's pretty much it. This is getting long, but I need to tell you everything. I need to explain. I'm not gonna explain Webpack mix package.json, although you know this, it looks similar, because if you have done the rest of the course, previous parts, you know a couple of things. So watch, production, development, and but we are going to check this one a little bit later when we start doing something, right? And when we are compiling SAS. So that's pretty much it. So thank you for watching. I hope you like it, and don't be afraid, don't be confused. This is not some. This will be like an becomes will become a natural to you when we start using it, right? So take care. See you in the next lecture.